Welcome to Minding My Business. I hope you're having a blessed up day. And if you're not, hopefully today's episode is going to bless you up. This was a show dedicated to celebrating people that have created a lane for themselves and are doing extraordinary things in the world. The whole point of the show is to help you elevate your business, your mindset, and your life. Enjoy the show. Today's powerhouse guest is Mr. Eric the Goat Cline. He is the world's fastest growing wholesale real estate trainer. He's sold over $150 million over the frickin' phone. He has the largest cold calling company in real estate space that generates thousands of leads per day for the real estate investor and wholesaler called Run It Remote. He's a father of two, husband of one, the one and only Shyla the Goat Cline, and is going to bless us up today on the show. So thank you so much for being our powerhouse guest today.
Thank you, Tanya. It's a pleasure seeing you. I love your energy as always.
As always. So tell us what got you into all of this greatness that you are doing today in the world. You could have chosen any career in the industry and you chose wholesaling real estate, but most importantly, to be a trainer to help others cross on the other side.
Yeah. I actually am standing here today because my wife has highly encouraged me after being by my side for years, 15 years. And we have, man, when I tell you in those 15 years, me and my wife have had some ups and downs, storms, some storms, some heavy storms in our 15 years. And the one thing that we've always been able to do is pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and just get back to work. Like literally, it's as simple as that, just getting back to work and showing up every single day. And the reason we found ourselves in the wholesaling industry was really me as a grown man with a family and kids and responsibilities and people counting on me. Back in 2019, Shyla and I were getting ready to do a pretty sizable exit on the very first company we ever started together. We actually had that business longer than we had our son, Kai. It was a baby to us, and we watched it grow and blossom. And before we knew it, in Fort Lauderdale, Shyla and I owned and operated the largest timeshare exit company in the United States of America. And we were at the time, we were like, holy cow, how did this even happen? You know, two recovering drug addicts. My wife was a heroin addict and I was a crackhead. And we both got clean. She found me. And I if we have to get into this story, I would. But I remember there's a few times in my life where it was very apparent God showed up. And the day I was sitting as a broken man, 28 years old, in a treatment center, they put me on a white bus. They bring us to outside meetings. And I was sitting there 3 days before I was getting ready to be let out of treatment into the real world, just a completely broken man. I remember the door opening. My wife walked in, Shyla. I didn't know her at the time, but it's like almost when you have a kid, you can't explain the love for a kid until you have a kid. Then they're like, oh, I get what you were talking about. So the story I'm about to tell, no one will understand it unless it's happened to them. But my wife walked through the door and there was this glow all the way around her. Like when I say all the way, I was like, what the shit is going on? And she walked over to me, and I know today, like God put her in that room, brought her over to me. Like she's my guardian angel. I've never known true love until I met my wife, Shyla, like true love. Not like a mother love, true love from another human being that did not birth you. My wife has shown me that for the last 15 years. So we had, and all of this goes into me finding the wholesale industry. But we were getting ready to exit the very first company her and I ever started together for over $100 million. And this was in 2019, 60 days before the deal closed. we ended up getting hit with two massive lawsuits, massive. Ended up costing us like $6-7 million. We ended up losing the company to the lawsuits because it was $2 billion companies suing two little guys, me and my wife. And we didn't have really the experience, the knowledge, or the bankroll to fight two multi-billion-dollar companies. The company we ended up shutting down netted Shyla and I. It was a net company, $12 million a year. Me and Shyla owned 67% of that business. So we were netting $8 to almost $9 million at the peak of this company. Net meaning we actually took that money home. We lost all of that overnight. We lost the company. We had to lay off over 150 W-2 employees that were in our office that, you know, we were changing their lives. Like I had to stand in front of all these people that I loved and let them go in the stroke of a conversation. And then for 2.5 years, Shyla and I fought a lawsuit that we didn't know if we were going to be able to get out of. Not that we did anything wrong. And it's hard for me to explain in a short period of time. Like once somebody sues you, you have to fight that lawsuit. Like you can't just say, oh, I don't want to play. And I don't want to play the lawsuit game. You have to defend yourself. And for 2.5 years, I couldn't let my ego out of the way because I knew we didn't do anything wrong. We were fighting the lawsuit, hoping the private equity firm would still acquire us. And it was destroying everything in my life, including my marriage. You know, it drove a wedge in between me and my wife. I was a rotten human being at this time. I had stinking thinking again. I was thinking about going back to my old ways of living, and that was the drugs and all that stuff. Cause like, I didn't see a way out of this. And I remember my wife, or I was at the end of an 8-hour deposition, where you sit in front of a camera and you have attorneys just completely try to demolish you as a human being. And I wasn't ready for that. I really wasn't ready for that because I didn't do a whole lot of internal work. I got clean, started a business, started making millions of dollars. And the dollar, the almighty dollar became my new drug for real. And all it did was amplify the scumbag that I already was. I wasn't using drugs, but I still wasn't the best human being. I knew how to build a business. I knew how to make money, but everything else was falling to the wayside for me. And that was my family, the ones around me I loved that cared for me. So I sat at the end of this 8-hour deposition and this lawyer was beating the shit out of me for 8 hours straight in front of my wife, you know, just belittling me as a man. And I remember at the end, I was sitting at the end of the table with my head in my hand and I was defeated. I really was defeated. And I remember he knocked on the table and he goes, "Hey, kid." And I look up at him and I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "I just want to tell you one thing." And I remember his bloodshot eyes and his red face. He had to have been an alcoholic, just, you know, looking at him. And he goes, "If you can make it through this, you can make it through anything."
Wow.
Little did he know what I had already been through and where I came from and what I was able to do with my life, even though it was in a turmoil right now. But he looked at me in the eyes and said that. And I remember processing that internally saying, "You have no fucking clue who you just said that to." Meaning you can take all the money, you can take all the houses, the cars that I've accumulated. But if you don't take what's here, which you can't take everything I've learned, and you don't take my family, which if my family were to left me, I would have been donezo. I know I would have. So that night, I remember telling Shyla, and this was at 2.5 years of fighting this lawsuit. I went home that night and I told my wife, I said, "Listen, honey, the money's great. We don't need it. I'll go back to broke if we have to. We've both seen broke before. If you give me 1.5 years, as long as we can keep this going, our family," which that's all I truly ever wanted in life was a family. I wanted a what, you know, a family, kids, all of that. I never thought I would be able to get that in my own life. And once I had that and I almost saw it slip away, I knew if I could keep my family intact, I'd be the most powerful man on planet Earth. And that's how I feel. So I told Shyla, let's settle. Let's give them whatever they want. Let's get rid of the houses, the cars. Let's simplify our life. I'm going to go into the wholesale space, and all I need you to do is back me for a year and a half, and I'll get it all back for us. And I told my wife that. I said, as long as we go all in on this one, like we went all in on the last one, in a year and a half, this will be a thing of the past, and we'll be telling stories about the lawsuit. That's when I jumped into the wholesale industry, March of 2021.
Mm, mm. And you
I know that was a lot, Tanya.
That's okay. People need to hear these stories, you know. I think everybody is in different seasons, you know, life is seasonal. And speaking of that, like now the space that you're currently in and how things have shifted, right? Like everybody talking about blaming it on the economy the last 2 years, or they're blaming it on this, or they're blaming it on that. Like, what tools do you currently use in this season of business and in life to keep you in the right mindset and knowing when it's time to pivot, whether it being a positive or a negative?
Yeah. So, what do I use as tools? One, I have an amazing circle of people around me because I do not always make the best decisions. Like the beautiful thing about me and my wife being life partners, husband and wife, and business partners is she thinks different from the way that I think. I am 100 miles an hour all day long, 7 days a week. And she is able to pull me back often, very often, and be like, Eric, settle down. And she's the only one. There's two people in the world that can 100% put me in my place, and they're not scared to do it. It's my wife and one of my best friends, Don. Like these two know me pretty well. So I keep a good circle of friends around me, and the circle is very, very small. And then, man, it's pivoting. The only reason I pivoted into what I'm doing right now is I came into the wholesaling industry with over a decade of experience building a pretty sizable company that was kind of the same model as the wholesale model, just a different leap. And when I came into this space or this industry, you know, without trying to sound like I'm knocking other coaches or influencers or people that can help others, I started going to all these events, and I'm like, the information ain't adding up that they're teaching. The numbers ain't right. The systems ain't right. So after 3 years of building the fastest growing virtual wholesale company the industry has ever seen, and I sold it 90 days ago for $4.5 million, which people told me you could not do. I sold one. I naturally, with my wife, Shyla, saying, Eric, you have to go all in on helping other people. Like your mess is your message, right? You got a mess, Eric, that you've been able to clean up. And there's a lot of people out there that can relate to you. So my wife is truly the reason I am on the path I am today. And that's helping other people do what I've been doing for 15 years. And that's getting my shit together, putting a financial fence around me and my family, and developing skill sets that if you train on them and you give it your all on them, dude, the economy doesn't matter. Like I'm not scared of where the economy is because I know I have a skill set that'll pay me in a good economy or a bad economy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what I was saying too. So it's like, okay. And also like regardless of what happened, because, you know, you were backed in a corner, right? You were backed in a corner. You had to make a decision. You had to pivot. You had no other choice.
Yeah.
If you wanted to like really live life intentionally and do it on your terms. But
Yeah.
moving forward, regardless of anything, you know, when you're saying need to make, like when it's time to make a shift, like you just sold the business and congratulations on that win. You sold the business, nothing bad happened, but you're like, you know what? Like it's time to pivot. It's time to move on.
Yep.
When do you guys know, you and Shyla, it's time to like let something go and move on
Yep.
to the next clear step?
Really good question. So we came from an industry, Resort Release was mine and Shyla's very first company we ever started that we almost exited. And we had built that where we were seeing money we didn't even dream of before, right? I couldn't imagine living in a halfway house, starting a business, and before we knew it, between my wife and I, we're making $8 million a year. I didn't dream that, it happened. And when we lost that business, I thought the wholesaling industry, I was going to be able to get back up to those numbers. And when we started, like my first 12 months in the wholesale industry, without knowing anything about it other than I knew how to sell and I had systems I could leverage to get results most people couldn't get, is my first 12 months I did $2.6 million. I netted 1.5 million net. And for somebody to net 1.5 million their first year in business, that's a pretty healthy number. And I was like, holy shit, I can probably get this to 8 million fairly quick. Well, year two, I did 3.2, I believe, netted 1.7. And I'm like, shit, I had to do a lot more work to make a little bit more money. And then year three, I did I think it was 3.5. And as I started scaling my team, the more I scaled the wholesale operation, because I wanted to get it to $1 million a month. And me and Shyla at the time were living in Raleigh, North Carolina. We moved there on a whim to just, collect our thoughts and get centered again as a family. And I realized after 3 years of building that, it was going to take a lot for Shyla and I to get to where we wanted to go, virtually wholesaling. And I'm talking making our goal is to get to 8 to 10 million a year net. That's mine and my wife's goal is we want to make 8 to 10 million. And I'm like, wait a second, this isn't the model that's going to get us there at scale to where our heart was going to be in it. So as I started building the wholesale company, I also started building a call center on the side that catered to the wholesale industry in the real estate space. Well, that company started outpacing my wholesale company, and I was spending maybe a quarter of my time on it. And we were like, wait a second, I'm walking over $100 bills to pick up pennies, spending 60 hours of my time wholesaling. We have to leverage our time. Shyla, my wife, is real big on time leverage. So she started looking, Eric, you're spending all this time wholesaling, but our call center is doing better and you don't even spend time on it. Your coaching platform, Eric, is doing better than the wholesale operation, and you're not spending a lot of time on that either. So Shyla, after a year of her telling me, Eric, we need to go do this. We need to go do this. We need to go do this. And me being stubborn, saying no, 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 the day we decided to go all in on coaching, helping other people better their life and our call center, we literally tripled our income.
Wow. Is she near you? I was like, I feel like we need to pull her up in this podcast right now.
She's in the other room having meetings. Dude, I swear to you, man. And I don't think enough people give their wives enough credit, right? Yeah. My wife 100% is my superpower. She doesn't love the limelight. She's okay being in the limelight. But dude, without her, none of this shit is possible.
Yeah. And I love that you say that because, I'm behind the scenes in a lot of stuff. I work with a lot of you guys, and the women are typically the ones that are really running the show. And what I really admire and respect about you is you give so much credit and respect to your foundation, which is your wife. And you guys are just such a beautiful team. And I really do believe that's why you guys are so strong and nothing can break that bond. And it's so beautiful to see. I think everybody just really respects and admires what you guys have. And speaking of inner circle and core values, because you were talking about that, I know you recently moved. Another pivot for you guys. Congratulations.
Literally.
Yeah, you're moving all different pieces and parts. I wanted to talk about core values when it comes to the people that you both bring into your inner circle, where they get to see your vulnerability, they get to know what's going on, because we we have these like perimeters where we allow people to get closer to know those aspects of ourselves that could possibly be liabilities. And so, what are some core values when you are really like, okay, these are my people?
Yeah. One of the reasons I'm standing where I'm standing right now, Tanya, is I needed a coach. I'm always someone that needs a coach in my life. I really do. It's been like I don't want to say hack because it's not a hack. It's like everyone knows once you understand it, if somebody has what you want, you go get what they have by getting close to them. And when Shyla and I were in Raleigh, our circle was super small, really, because we just didn't have any friends there, really. We'd been there 3 years. We transplanted ourselves there, and we just kind of had our blinders on. It was our family and work, and we needed that at the time. But where we were at, like, I didn't have anybody that I looked up to. I really didn't. Like, Shyla and I, in our circle, we had the nice house. We had the nicest cars. We were, I'm pretty sure, making the most money out of anybody that would have been in direct connection with us. And not that that's a bad thing, but for some people like us, we need to always be pushing ourselves and not get complacent, or I literally will get in trouble. So, or if I'm not around the right people, right? So I flew out here and I knew I was on the hunt for a coach. Mm. And I had hired somebody and, out of Miami, and I just wasn't a fan of some of the behind.
Not me.
No, not Tanya. A gentleman, a guy. I don't want to say his name because I still respect him, but we didn't align. As like, he had built a fast brand. He was loud and obnoxious. And I'm like, oh shit, this ain't the right coach. Respect him, everything that he's doing, but we don't align. Like, he doesn't treat women the way I personally want to treat my own wife. Some of the things he was saying online, I'm like, oh shit, this is going to get me in trouble with my own brand, being affiliated with him. Yeah. So I was like, so I came out here to Arizona, and this is core values and stuff. I knew I needed a coach to help me get to where I wanted to go in the coaching platform. Mm-hmm. And I came out here and saw Andy Elliott. Mm-hmm. I brought me and my son. I bought 2 VIP tickets. We sat front row. I was paying attention to the way he moved when his wife came on stage. I was paying attention to him when he was off stage with his wife. I was paying attention to the way he acted around his kids. And then he was watching, without me knowing, he was watching the way me and my son, Kai, were interacting together. And back then, Kai was 11 years old and he was 215 pounds, which is heavy for an 11-year-old. And forever, I was lying to my son saying, you're strong and you got muscles, when really my son was fat and overweight, right? That's just the reality of it. And Andy saw the way me and Kai were interacting. Long story short, after all of that, he came up to me and he goes, hey man, do you mind if I talk to your son? And I'm like, yeah, what's up, Andy? My name's Eric Cline. And right, like, shit, I'm here to meet you, bro. And he goes, I want to talk to your son, man. I saw as you and your son were arguing or running, you guys couldn't stop arguing. And he goes, you've never been fat, dude. Your son can't relate to you. I was at 11 years old, as big as your son, and now look at me. He goes, somebody dumped me at 11. A girl dumped me for another kid that was in more shape. And from that day on, I've made fitness a part of my life. So Andy Elliott today is my coach. Before he ever talked business, ever mentioned business, he went to my son, helped him out. Today, he's lost over 35 pounds. He's my son's on a fitness kick that he's never been on in his life. My wife is now being personally, like, Andy cared about my wife. Anytime I show up to an event, I'm not allowed to come unless I have my wife with me. Like it's literally, so it's core values are to the deepest root for me. Like, my family, no bullshit, is everything to me. When I mean everything, that may sound cliche, but if people knew where I come from, like, my family is everything to me. Yeah. Being ethical, having morals. Like, I've been on the other I've been on the wrong side up until I was 28 years old, where I lied, cheated, stole, messed people over, didn't care if they were family or a friend. I would fuck them over. So I've lived that life for many, many years. And today I'm still a human being. I'm still a broken man, but I'm like, I don't want to be, every day I'm trying to get as far away from that guy as I can that I used to be. And some days I fall short. Some days I fucking knock it out the park. But morals, being ethical, like all the money I've ever made, it's been honest money that I make today. 100% honest money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yeah, and if anybody met Shyla, she really is a divine human being. I've had the honor of meeting her, building relationship with her, and I met Kai. He's a badass. He really
Yeah.
is. I remember him was like selling something. We were at one of your events. I'm like, this kid's an entrepreneur, freaking newer, better than
Oh, it's the
that
best.
I know.
Yeah.
So yeah, because you're sharing a lot of his journey also on social media to inspire other people. Because I was gonna ask about that too. You know, as a parent, I'm sure that's a sensitive subject to address to like your child, like, hey, like you're overweight and like we got to get you healthy, we got to get you in shape. But you also lead by example, and so does Shyla. I know you guys are training, you're working out, you're doing your thing. Um, you know, was that conversation just directly from Andy, or did you also intervene and step in? And how was that transition and how was that like adjustment phase for somebody who maybe is going through that or struggling with their children?
So this is what I can tell you. The hard, like the conversations a lot of us need to have are the ones we avoid. Right. The hard ones, the hard conversations are the ones that need to be had. And like with my son Kai, that conversation needed to be had. Like that was where he ultimately ended up at 11 years old, was a direct reflection of us. Nobody else can take blame for that. Because at 11 years old, like he didn't know. Like he didn't know truly what was happening, other than there came a day where he was so bloated in the face. I look back at the pictures today. Literally, it almost brings me to tears. Like, I can't believe we allowed that as parents to happen to the one thing I'm like one of the things on planet Earth I love more than anything, which is Kai.
Mm-hmm.
And I let that happen to him. So and this is why I have so much respect and love, genuine love for Andy Elliott, is he changed everything when it came to Kai. Like Andy could walk out of my life today, and I could assure you, I'm indebted to that man for the rest of my life, because he opened up Kai's eyes, which internally has changed our entire family.
Mm.
That one thing with Kai that we all avoided is now something we all talk about, and which is now something that has had a ripple effect on our entire family. We spent 6 hours yesterday as a family meal prepping as a family. We've never done that before. But again, it's because we had the conversation. Now me and Kai can sit and have that conversation. He's talking to me about macros or calories at 12 years old. That wasn't a conversation. Like we didn't talk about that kind of shit because he was overweight and we didn't want to talk. Like we didn't even entertain those types of conversations. But Kai today knows he is a little bit on the heavier side, and he's doing everything he can to get better as a 12-year-old kid.
Mm. It's so powerful. Yeah. And I'm sure, I mean, I could even see in his pictures, he looks happier. He looks more confident. He looks like his energy has shifted. Like he has vitality and life force, and you guys have things you can do together and hold each other accountable. So it's really cool to see that and
Yeah.
addressing those hard conversations, like you said. Um, with when things get hard, right? So when things get hard, you've been through a lot of I don't even know how to say. I wouldn't even say like a roller coaster. I feel like you've been like through like
Fuck.
building reconstructions, you know, like when they tear down buildings with the bulldozer and stuff. I don't even know how else to say that. Maybe a few of them.
Demolition at its finest.
Yes,
Like,
that's the word I was looking for. Today, how do you keep focused when life does get chaotic and there's a lot of chatter, there's a lot of noise, and you just might feel like maybe people don't get you? Because one thing about leadership is you have to lead through the unknown, and like I like to call them invisible steps, right? It's like
yep,
that unwavering faith with those invisible steps.
yep. Really good question again. So going back to where I come from, Tanya, I like when I say I am on borrowed time compared to where I started this whole journey from is on August 9th of 2009, which is tattooed on my knuckles. I beat a 14, 15-year, very heavy, severe drug addiction to where I was too much of a coward to take my own life. I had planned it out multiple times on how I was going to do it. I could never execute on it. Again, just being I don't even know, a coward, right? Like, so on August 9th of 2009, again, another day, it was so apparent God entered my life. And I was on an 8-day run of smoking crack in a room with the dope man circling the back door when he knew I needed more dope. And the very last day, I heard helicopters, ambulance, the front door kicked in. They came down the hallway, the paramedics. I heard my mom out there crying, saying, leave him alone, he's dead. I knew this was going to happen. My brother was arguing with the paramedics, trying to get in the room. And after, I don't know how many minutes of just complete fucking chaos, where I'm in bed, middle of the day, sweating bullets in my underwear, sheets over my head, just saying, fuck, I knew this was going to happen. They all know. And I remember the paramedics getting everybody back, and they were going to kick the door open on 3. And again, I'm in my bed, in my underwear, sheets over my head, just hiding from life. Hadn't been outside in days. I have no eyebrows, no eyelashes. I had, baseball, golf ball size blisters on both sides of my face from lighting a socket off a gas stove to light my crack pipe. And I remember when they said 1, 2, I jumped up out of bed. I busted the door opened it up, and I was standing, and I went, I'm alive. And because they all thought I was dead. And I was standing in a hallway by myself in my underwear, nobody around. God entered my life as plain as day that day, saying, dude, if you do not get your shit together, you're going to die. And I think it was within days it was going to happen. So when times get tough for me, and during my last lawsuit, they got tough. But I always said, if I just never have to change these dates on my knuckles, which was the day I started living again. Like, this was the second time I was born. There was, the day I was born back in April 16th of 1981. And then August 9th of 2009 was the day that I started recreating myself. And I got clean off drugs, alcohol. I have over 15 years clean and sober off any mood or mind altering substance. Thank God. And if I never have to change this date, I don't think there's anything I can't get past. And I know I get myself into situations, or storms are going to come. Again, as cliche as this fucking sounds, dude, all storms pass. And I've had at this point in my career and in my life, I know everything is temporary. Like, very few things are permanent, right? So I know whatever it's in, it's like, all right, where my feet are today, what is going around, how do I feel? This is going to pass. I swear to God, it's going to pass. And then just rolling with it, man, and showing up every fucking day. Like, not hiding from it, running to it, right? Running to what is wrong and fixing the shit. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
You absolutely did. Yeah, I think it reminds me, because not everybody's going to have such an extreme story like yours that's listening. It reminds me of like, because what you're saying is like, you have reminders in front of your face, actually on your body
yes,
every single day.
literally.
You literally have reminders in front of you. And, one thing that I remember one time was like making this list of all the hard shit that I've ever gone through and have overcome. And I'm still here today breathing. And I've got food
Yep.
on the table, and you're on the other side of it. And you just make a list, even if it's something small or something massive like yours. You have to have those reminders in front of you to remember like you can do hard stuff. Like you're going to be okay. Like time is going to pass and there is a light on the other side of things. So it's like the
Yep.
same concept. Really, I mean, you literally have it on. You guys don't have to get like a tattoo on you. You could though. You could,
Or you can.
you could definitely go harder, go home. Or maybe,
Yeah.
you know, one of the three. One of the three. You mentioned going backwards a little bit, how when you were in the trenches and you were a shitty human being, you said it like that, that you did have the grace of your wife, the grace of your family, where they did stick by your side.
Yep.
And like, because sometimes that doesn't happen. People are like, they're not anchored into their core values and understand that there is hardship that happens
Yep.
within the life situations. So what was that like when you realized, were you still like anchored in, where they still knew like, okay, like we still got something here, like let's not let this go?
Yeah. Yeah, it was. It was when I realized we had back when Shyla and I had Resort Release in Fort Lauderdale, our company was well known. And I started becoming well known. And like Grant Cardone, a lot of people know who Grant Cardone is. And Grant Cardone and I linked up before Grant Cardone was who he is today.
Mm.
I've spoke at Grant Cardone's 10X's.
I saw you there.
Okay. Yeah. Like I've been on those stages. Grant would call me on a Saturday and be like, get down to fucking Miami and talk to uh, um, my sales boot camps that I'm having. So like I started getting in that circle, but when all hell went, when everything went to hell in a handbasket and I lost the company, I lost the income and I started selling off things, I realized very fast there were only a few people in my life that were still around. Like a lot of my friends and relationships were money motivated. And when I was in it, I didn't realize it. But when Shyla and I went from a $7 million house off Las Solas in the Seven Isles to moving into a rental property just to make sure we were safe and we had money for the lawsuit, of literally a 3-bedroom rental property in Fort Lauderdale, my phone wasn't ringing anymore. My wife was like there still with me, even though when I say I was a bad human being, they say money amplifies who you are.
Yeah, you're saying that.
Right. And today I can honestly say, like, I'm still a broken ass man that's trying to get better every single day. I admit that today. Back in 2019, I thought I was fucking God. Like I really did. And I was trying to fill a void that was not fucking fillable. And I was filling it with all material shit. And the way I would treat people and all of that. Like I look back on it today, but to say like my wife, dude, she's always, when I say unconditional love, she has been there. Where I remember it was a Wednesday after 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm sleeping, not knowing what we're going to do. She's handling the lawsuit for us to where I don't even really have to deal with it. And I remember her coming into the bedroom one morning. She's like, Eric, she was like, I don't give a fuck what you're going to do. But she's like, you need to get up and go do something. Like you're too talented to be doing what you're doing right now. And again, I started going backwards in life where I thought maybe changing this date would be a good like answer to my problems. I was questioning that. And without Shyla being by my side, man, again, I don't want to sit here and beat a dead horse, keep talking about my wife, but like she's always been there for me in every aspect of my life.
Speaking of like life now and living at higher levels and operating at higher levels and you showing up at your like max capacity, what are some of people are probably wondering like what is like Eric's DMOs? Like what are your daily methods of operation? I know you work out every day. Like let me ask this differently. For you to like be able to handle anything that comes your way and you feel like you're on top of the world, what are your non-negotiables?
I love this question because when non-negotiables become things you miss, shit starts getting messed up again. And you just so happen to catch me at a time, Tanya, where I'm getting my non-negotiables back. But I could sit here and lie, right? I could sit here and lie and say, oh, fuck it, I'm doing this and this and this. And then that's what most people do. FYI, whoever's listening to this, 90% of the motherfuckers you listening to are lying to you in the first place. They don't do half the shit they're even saying they're doing. So non-negotiables in my life that me and my wife for the last 2 days are getting back to, we would get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock latest, and we would go on a 45-minute walk, me and my wife. And this took us 13 years to figure out how powerful this walk is. Literally 13 years it took us. And so every morning, Shyla and I, we get up, and now Kai is doing it with us. Nice. As we would get up and we go on a walk, and she would leave her phone at home. I would bring mine with just to track how far we'd walk. And then we ended up getting to the point we knew how long we were walking. We didn't need a phone, but it was mine and her time to just get aligned, like literally aligned. She would talk about things. I would talk about things. Some were business, some were parenting. I could vent to her, get shit off my chest. She could vent to me, get shit off her chest. So we would start our day with that. Then we would come home. We would eat breakfast together as a family. We would sit down. We're real big on, Shyla loves cooking breakfast tacos. So like we eat breakfast tacos like 6 days out of the week. So we do breakfast together. We get ready together on both mine and my wife's mirrors. If you were to go to our house right now, every month, which we didn't do this for a while, since we've been in Arizona, we actually stopped doing this. We just started doing it again. All of our goals, monthly goals, are on our bathroom mirrors with dry eraser. I always have dry eraser markers with me. Like literally, I have these things all over the house, all over our office. I paint in our office walls. I put a coat over it where you can actually write all over the walls in our office. Cool. But our bathroom mirrors have our goals on it. Okay. I always come into the office 1 hour before everybody comes into the office. So I want to be here before everybody. That in the last 30 days has changed, where I started coming in like 20 minutes before everybody. I usually come in an hour before everybody. Again, these are non-negotiables that I've had that I let slip away that I'm now bringing back to my life. Okay. Now, and then Shyla and I went to a couples retreat, which we've never been to ever. 15 years of being together. We meet Andy Elliott, Jackie Elliott, and they're like, you guys spend so much time on your business. When's the last time you spent any time on your marriage? And I'm like, they go, how many seminars have you been to for business? And we're like, oh shit, I can't even count. Fucking like so many. How many have you been to for your marriage? And we were both like, none. And they're like, I wonder how strong your marriage is. So literally, Like when someone has to bring that to your attention. So we have a workbook now on our marriage. We have this workbook and we were doing it, but before you know it, the book gets set aside. Now it's under the table. So we're getting the book back out. We're working on our marriage. Dude, if I can get, and then obviously the gym, I go to the gym at least 5 days a week.
And you
I'm
now
not
got Kai as your accountability buddy.
yeah, listen, at the end of the day, I do as much as I can. I write goals down, I review goals. We do for me again, a family, we eat dinner every night as a family. I try to have, I'm not the best at this. I try to put my cell phone up. Again, I'm just being honest with everybody. One thing is when I get home, I want my family to get the best of me, not the rest of me. I think Tanya is good at saying that line right there, aren't you?
Well, I copied it from Katie Reed. So yes, I think that one always kind of like hits people, right?
Yep. Because as much as I say I love my family and they're everything to me, just the other day, I was walking out of the house and I was walking out with my phone in my hand, completely disconnected to my house. I was already gone. And I walk out and Shyla was waiting at the car for me. And she goes, Eric, did you just not hear your son? And I was like, what are you talking about? She said, he was yelling, Dad, goodbye. I love you. And I'm like, I didn't even hear him. Like I was that disconnected. So I opened the door and I was like, hey, buddy, I'm so sorry. He goes, no, you weren't, or you would have heard me.
Oh,
So like, and again, I'm talking out loud to the audience. It's like, there's a lot of areas in my life are really, really good. And there's other areas that are good, but I still got a lot of work to do. Like I've repeated multiple times on this thing, I'm still a broken man. Like I am not perfect, but one thing that I've been able to do successfully for 15 years is always pull myself back up, suit up, show up, and keep myself in the game. Like I've kept myself in the game for 15 years.
That's amazing too, because the more that you scale, I think people think like, oh, once I make this amount of money or once I do this, then I'll spend more time with my family or then I'll get in shape or then because how many times do you hear that?
Yep. When I was making the most money I've ever made, which I don't make this today, I'm getting there. But in 2019, Shyla and I were netting 8 million a year. I was the most miserable I've been since I've been clean at that time. I was the most out of shape. My relationships were an absolute disaster. I was thinking about fucking using drugs again. Literally making the most I've ever made. Clean, I was the most miserable I've ever been. And I can say today, like, dude, I feel still working on it, but I fucking love my life today. Like I can really say I love my life. Me and my wife moved to Scottsdale, Arizona with my son, my daughter, our 2 dogs. I'm still sleeping on a mattress on the floor right now. Like our kitchen table is a plastic card table that we eat breakfast and dinner on every single night. We haven't fully moved in. We're getting ready to rehab the whole house and move into a casita. But like, dude, our family, for the first time, we've pulled Kai out of school. So he now homeschools with Andy Elliott and his kids.
Nice.
And we've taken control of our family for the first time ever, like true control, meaning in a good way, our daughter works with us. Our son isn't stuck in the system telling people he's got ADHD and all these fucking problems. Like we are living a life by design today for the first time ever in our life. We're designing our own life.
That's just so cool. And besides the drugs, right? Because that's always going to be something that's going to make somebody a liability.
Yep.
What have you had to overcome? Let's say like something as recent as like the last year. What have you had to overcome in order to be this man that we're having conversation with today?
What have I had to overcome? Knowing that my ideas are always not the best ideas. And when I say that, I mean that. Like, 50% of the time are fucking dead wrong. But I used to not be able to do that, Tanya, like with Shyla and I, and still today, it's like it was my way or the highway, my or the highway, my way or the highway. Fuck no, not happen, not happen. And that's not my idea. We're not doing it. And I'm realizing that there's a lot better ideas out there than what I come up with. And that's why I love having amazing people around me, especially on my team, is they get to bring ideas and then we get to see them come together as a team. But so putting my ego aside, still knowing my ideas aren't the best ideas. What have I had to overcome here recently?
What are you working on too? Because that's something too. So if you're going to have this conversation with Mr. Eric Cline, December 2nd, 2025. And you're like, man, I'm so proud you overcame that because now we're able to receive our next level blessings.
Yeah. I would say I'm building a new company today. Like, you have caught me 4 months into starting a new office in Scottsdale, building a new team. And for the 3 years I was in Raleigh, North Carolina, I got complacent and self-development became a thing of the past for me. So I know, and I've never been a big reader. I was a big audio guy. Like, I'd listen to audios. And there's a point I'm trying to make is my coach said, your earnings will never outgrow your self-development, right? And so and self-development is a lot of things. It's health. It's the new knowledge you're going to retain to help you get to another level. It's training, discipline. I got to become more disciplined. I have a very young team today in my office that they bet on me to come work with me, not for me, with me. And what I'm trying to do is I need to get back into the self-development and training my own team. Training meaning I got to train with them every single day. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, my team is, I'm only going to be as good as my team. So I got to train with these guys every single day, religiously, not just a couple days a week, every single day of a week. I got to be training with my team. So I would say that's one of the biggest things. What am I working on now? More self-development. Sounds weird, like cliche that I would say that, but that's just where I'm at in my life. Self-development in all areas of my life, and then training my current team I have today to be able to live up to being the -- wholesale training company in the world.
So powerful. And what kind of goes into the second part of it is like, who do you have to become? Because that kind of can intertwine based on what you're saying, right?
Don't chase the money, chase the man.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, I was on my brotherhood call, which is this community that I'm involved with. And they say, don't chase the money, chase the man you need to become that would ultimately be able to the money will come to you. And like I say, I want to be the world's fastest growing wholesale training company in the world, right? I've already stamped it on my social media. So what do I need to do? I need to I need to become that man first. I need to beat the competition in all areas of my life. I need to have the best marriage that's on fire, where it's undeniable that area of my life is figured out. I got to be the best father, where it's undeniable that in that area of my life, I got it figured out. Because for me to be the fastest growing and the largest, people are going to come to me for more than just one reason. That's not how to wholesale. It's how to get their whole life in order, because the wholesaling aspect of it is actually the fucking easy thing to do. It's all other areas of our life when we're trying to run a business. When they get out of whack, the business actually ends up fucking up, right? When my marriage is in tune, bro, my fucking business is on fire. When my kids and I are on the same page, my business is on fire. So don't chase the money, chase the man. And right now, what I truly want to do is become the man that ultimately it's undeniable that all areas of my life, including the business side of it, it's undeniable that I am that guy. And I'm in progress, or I'm in pursuit of being that man.
You're in the process of embodying him, which is what
there you go.
What you were talking about too, is like creating an ecosystem, an environment where you're around people that are the embodiment of what you're wanting, right?
Yes.
And you're mentioning how important that is, so you can actually see the proof that it does exist.
Yeah. And that man just so happens to be Andy Elliott for me, dude. He's got a speckled past, which I respect, dude. I respect someone that's got some war stories, that's got some mess they've cleaned up, because that's where I come from.
Yeah.
Like, I did not get to where I was at 28 years old because I went to church too many times, right? That's not how I wound up there. Like, I hurt a lot of people. I burned a lot of bridges in my life. I did a lot of things I should not have done. And I respect people that can totally recreate themselves and burn that person away so bad where it's like every day they just, like, it's undeniable they're just not that person anymore. So, and I respect, again, Andy Elliott for the level he's been able to do it. And I'm very close with him. And the dude don't break. The dude does not break. He for you
to say that is pretty
dude, he has set a standard, Tanya, I have yet to see when it comes to being an all around good human being.
That's freaking awesome.
Yep.
This one question, I think a lot of people have twisted, and I want to ask, because you've been on so many different sides of wealth, right? You've been dirt broke several times, not just once, but a few times, twice from what you're saying. Had everything, had nothing, then had everything. Does self-worth impact your net worth, or does your net worth impact your self-worth?
Does your self-worth impacts your net worth? Yourself, and so I right now have been working on myself, I would say, more than I ever have. As far as, like, again, my coach that I have in my life right now, fucking, it's hard to slack around him. Me and my wife are working, and this is all self-worth. My wife and I are working on ourselves more than we ever have right now. And we are growing financially faster than we've ever grown. And, like, dude, that's just a direct reflection of me saying and that's self-worth. Like, I think highly of myself right now as a human being. And I used to, if you would have asked me that in 2019, I would have fucking said it pounding my chest. But internally, I was a broken man. My self-esteem was very, very low. Like, today, I may sound like a fucking, I don't even know of me saying this today. Like, back when in 2019, I used to walk out of the house, head to toe, designer everything. And I didn't even fucking like the shit. I wanted other people to know. Literally, I wanted them to know. I used to pull up in a red light and I would do this in my Rolls Royce. I would even be looking behind me to see if anybody was looking at me. It was that bad. So when I lost all that, and because again, now me getting ready to say what I'm going to say, I got the Rolls Royce again. The only reason I had is my son, Kai, once we were in Raleigh, he was like, Dad, you deserve to get what you want. And I wasn't going to get another Rolls Royce. But a Rolls Royce to me is a trophy because I had never seen one until I was 28 years old when I was in treatment riding a beat up mountain bike that somebody gave me. Like I'd never seen one. And when I saw one, I wondered what people had to do in order to get one of those cars. Well, I know today what you have to do in order to get one of those cars. And Kai and Shyla, they were like, Eric, you deserve another Rolls Royce. Like, you're not the guy that you used to be. They know the story of me breaking my neck, seeing if people were looking at me. And they were like, you've earned this one, Eric. Like, you should go get another Rolls Royce. So I do believe your self-worth impacts your net worth, because I'm a living proof of it right now today that, dude, my self-worth is, I think I answered that right, Tanya, didn't I?
I don't think there's any wrong questions.
Oh, all right.
There's no wrong questions. This is just like, the intentionally bringing the guests on that have just been extraordinary human beings. You've done a lot of work on yourself. And I love how you even talked about how by you becoming a better human being, it's also prophesized and blessed up your business. Like your business has scaled because you're putting work on you becoming a better human being. And I think a lot of people are always, there's a lot of people where there's so much programming and they just say things because they're programmed and they don't even know what they're talking about. And
it's fucking nonsense.
Yeah. So, I think once you get to that level, you're like, you're just programmed. You're just saying things because you're programmed.
I don't even know what it means.
I don't know, but one of the things everybody says, which is valid, and the reason why I wanted to bring this question up is to eliminate the confusion with somebody like yourself that is actually integrating and embodying the work. And, I don't think there's ever such thing as perfect, but there can be the pursuit of excellence, which I do see that in you and Shyla and your entire family, which I think is such an admirable trait. But, they say, I'm sure you hear this a lot, is your network impacts your net worth. But before that, it's like, I don't have what you guys have, but I have high self-worth because I do a lot of work on myself. And so I have no problem going and having conversations with you or somebody else because I know that eventually I'm going to get there, but I know I'm an amazing human being. And therefore, like, we can all break bread together.
Yeah. And your self-worth allows you to believe you're worthy of even sitting at the tables. There were, God, when I got done with that lawsuit, it was just like when I was I would walk around with my head like this, not like this. I know, just like how you said, I don't know exactly what you said, but you're like, I don't have what you guys have. You do have what we have. We all just have different things. Like, I've known you for a while, Tanya, and you are a very fucking wise, talented woman that is on a fast track to get whatever the fuck you want. But it's like, I'm worthy of sitting at a table today. Like, I got a guy that reaches out to me, and this is crazy. And then I'll get off my soapbox. But there's a guy in my phone that has done 4 9-figure exit. His name is Tony Mitchell. Wow. And I think it might be 4 or 5 9-figure exits. And he's somebody that always reaches out to me. This dude has exited more companies than anybody that I know at 9 figures or more. And he told me within the last 30 days, because he's thinking about moving out here to Scottsdale, Arizona. And he goes, Eric, dude, I look up to you. And when he said this, I was like, holy fuck, he looks up to me. He was like, Eric, what you're doing, he goes, unless your social media is completely fake, he goes, I love what you and your wife are doing. I love the way you treat your son. I love what you're doing with this new team. You uprooted your family and moved to Arizona and you're already building. He's like, I love all of this about you, dude. And he's like mid 50s, I think. And he was like, I just want to let you know I look up to you. And I'm like, holy fuck. This whole time, I'm doing this to this guy, looking up to him, not knowing he was right beside me, looking up at me. And I'm like, shit, dude. And I had to tell him, I'm like, dude, Tony, you have no clue how much that means to me.
Mm, yeah. And
So,
that's why no, and that's so cool because it is the overall around. I'm trying to see. I have this little life hole here, and then I know, gosh, we've already been talking for a freaking hour, but it's like, people put so much emphasis on money and career, but I love how you're talking about like it's the embodiment of all these things. Like, are you having fun while you're working? Are you miserable every day? Are you
yep.
spending time to work on your marriage or your relationship, or maybe you have no business being in a relationship and you got to work on healing your past traumas, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that, yeah, what you're doing is just amazing. I know you're impacting and inspiring so many people. And we covered so many things today. If you could leave the audience with one thing that they can integrate that will help them elevate their business, their mindset, and their life, what would that one thing be?
Business, their mindset, and their life. Fuck, Tanya.
The triple threat.
All
We got to end strong.
right. It's going to be as simple as it fucking gets. Make sure the people that are around you are the right people.
Hmm.
Because I've had the wrong ones around me, and it can only take one of them. And it could be the voice of doing something and you go and do it, and you shouldn't be doing it, but that person's in your circle, and you keep hearing this one message all the time. Before you know it, you think it's okay, and then before you know it, you're fucking doing it. So you got to audit your circle often, but audit them fucking with like, you got to audit your circle often and the intentions of the people in your circle. Like, dude, with money or without money, I know the people in my life are in my life right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that. I don't have anybody in my life. Like, I try to keep people in my life that are married, that have a healthy marriage, that are fathers, that are good fathers.
Mm-hmm.
Most people in my life do not drink. They do not do drugs. They do not, like, so I audit the people in my life. So I would say something that can help all of that. Look at who the fuck you're hanging out with.
Mm. I'll tell you too, I don't have any single friends because I don't want to be in single, but it's the same thing, right? You
Yeah.
yourself with people that you admire and where you see your future self going.
Yeah. So your circle is important, man.
Yeah. Amen to that. Right. Well, that's what we have for you guys. If you want to, hire Eric or be in proximity with him, they can reach you how?
The Eric Cline on Instagram would probably be your best way. The Eric is ERIC. Cline is CLINE. The Eric Cline.
Well, there you have it. If you found value in today's episode, make sure you subscribe, that you like, you comment below one of your greatest takeaways for today, and you tag at Tanya C. Oliver and our guest. Until next time, remember that you were built for this, and it's time to elevate your business, mindset, and your life.